Encounter is brought to you by the Broome County Council of Churches, where we connect compassion with needs as we inspire growth with dignity. You'll find us in special places throughout the community. For those who remain hungry, we provide meals. For those who are challenged, we build wheelchair ramps. We comfort those who are ill, minister to those who are confined, and we remain an advocate for change and understanding on behalf of every element of our community. Connect and inspire. Encounter the Broome County Council of Churches.
Brothers and sisters, welcome to the Encounter program sponsored by the Broome County Council of Churches. I'm your host, Mark Kimpland, the pastor at the Endwell United Methodist Church. One of the joys of hosting this program is uncovering gems in our community that are doing great work, needed work. And we have such a program for you today that I'm excited to share with you as we go a bit deeper into this gem that we share today. And my guests today are both Andrew Morrison, who is from the Pathstone Corporation, and he is the Placement and Career Services Developer, and Paul Weckel, who is also from the Pathstone Corporation and serves as their Regional Administrator. And I want to welcome both of you because talking about uncovering gems, I knew nothing about this at all, about what the Pathstone Corporation was all about, and also what the Young Adult Reentry Partnership is all about. And you're going to be blessed with what they have to share. And so I want to get right into this. But let's start with this first, if we could. If each of you could just take a minute or two and kind of just share your background and how you came to be at this place in your life at this time doing what this is. If you can kind of give our viewers and listeners a snapshot, if you would. Andrew, you want to go first?
Sure.
Okay.
So I'm a inner city kid from Philadelphia, grew up in a housing project, was able to parlay a little bit of athletic ability for college education, wound up coming to upstate New York, and I spent 35 years between IBM and Lockheed. And after retiring, one of the things I wanted to do is give back, particularly to young people, because of the mentors that I had along the way. And so we started out doing some work with a program called 24/7 Dads, and then for about 4 years, and then we did some work at a children's home, and then I was retired. And my buddy here, I called him up one day and said, "Hey, what are you doing these days?" And he told me about this program, and he says, you could come out of retirement and help me."
Yes, you could.
One of the key things for me is there are not enough people who have been around the block once or twice, who will reach back and help young people who may be floundering a little bit and say, what is the path that you're on? And just say to them, you do recognize that your life choices, your life decisions, your life actions will dictate kind of where you're going. And then I always ask the kids, once I say that to them, has the juice been worth the squeeze? The juice of what you're getting now, is that? And that sometimes leads us into a very in-depth conversation about where they are. So
thank you.
Yep.
Thank you. Paul, what about yourself? What's your background and how
Well, I've spent about 33 years working within the juvenile justice system, primarily residential settings. Have some background working with traumatic brain injury as well. I've done this work in 3 different states. I was fortunate enough to meet Andrew, kind of a funny little story. We became real acquainted. We were both in a conference outside of Washington, D.C. one night, just sitting in a parking lot, and found it out, his love of sports, his desires, his work in the community, what he had been doing. And the funny part of it is, born and raised in Philadelphia, and I was born and raised in Castle Creek. I come from a very rural background. He comes from a very inner city background. So I think our friendship blossomed, and I'm very appreciative of the fact when I called him up that when we were undertaking a new mission in this county, primarily to serve 18 to 24-year-old youth that had been incarcerated or had adjudicated charges as youth. And the mission, I knew he was the right person for this position. So I'm pretty blessed by the fact that he came aboard, and another young person, Renee, that has joined our group also. we were familiar with, and she does a heck of a job as well.
Awesome.
So we're blessed. Thank you.
Awesome. Now, I have all kinds of materials here that I got via emails and going to the website and all of that, and I just was not aware of what this even was. And when I came across the idea of the Pathstone Corporation, I did not know about that. Can you just kind of give us a thumbnail sketch about Pathstone and what they do and how they do it?
Yeah. We're affiliated with our corporate offices out of Rochester, New York. They do an array of services, social services. I think their main forte and what they're known for is they began their organization working with migrant workers. It blossomed into housing programs, re-entry. They work with anti-gun programs in some of our larger cities, Buffalo and Rochester. Thus, we're identified as an area within the state that 18 to 24-year-old violence has increased. So we were a targeted area to bring this type of grant work into the community. So that's basically how we got started here. Okay. We're an offshoot of an already established corporation.
Gotcha. Okay. So when that analysis that this is the area that really needs some work and such things, and then this grant, the Young Adult Reentry Partnership began, can you kind of take us through that? What does that mean? Let's say to the person that's hearing this for the first time, hearing about Pathstone Corporation or this grant, can you kind of take us through what that means?
I'd like to point out that the attraction for me in accepting the position was what I saw initially about this position was that partnership that we have with SUNY Broome. I really felt that through my work that individuals that were perhaps going down a path that was going to lead to incarceration or who had trauma in their past just needed an outlet to get started. So that was key for me in wanting to become involved in this. Our partnership with Broome allows us a single point of entry for folks to come in and establish a career path. So again, I felt that was most important in this role. And I think it's key to us being in the community because literally somebody can come in if they meet the criteria, if they've had problems with the law, if they've been incarcerated, we can make that first step for them and begin talking to them about what do you see yourself doing? What would you like to do? And then talk about credentialed programs that it's a workforce initiative from the federal government. So we can lead them down that path and get them involved. So that's key.
So there are certain criteria that someone would have to fit, age criteria, and say, can you?
So 18, 24-year-old.
Okay.
And people who have been maybe an adjudicated youth, or someone who has a pending charge today, or someone who's been incarcerated, they can come in. We can talk to them about kind of what they want to do. There are programs that out at SUNY Broome that will allow them to, have a certification in welding, a certification in soldering. This will lead them to employment opportunities particularly in the soldering rooms in manufacturing. We recently had a young man who went through certification to be a security guard. Yeah. So, and he went through and he hit all the, hit all the right stops, and he did very well. And so he now has the ability to have a certificate that says that he's had this training. There's a big need for people in the medical area, to like phlebotomy where you test, and then there are nursing assistants kinds of things. They know they don't have enough nurses nationwide, so there's a program that will allow them to become a certified nurse assistant. So those are career paths we can put people on. And then when we talk to them about, don't just look at having a job. Look at having a career. So I jokingly tell the young people, you do know what job stands for. And they say, what? Work. I say, no, it means just over broke. So you need to have a career, so.
Yes. So explain the process to me. Do you identify the 18 to 24-year-olds, or do they Are they identify themselves? How does that process? Let's say that there's someone listening to this right now and says, I see myself in what you're describing and such. How would that process work then? How would one be identified?
Right now, in our partnerships, we are partnered with. We have endorsements through the Broome County Sheriff's Department, the Binghamton Police Department. We also work heavily with probation and parole. Andrew's embarking on a program through the city of Binghamton, correct, called the UCAN program, where the judges are sitting and looking for mentor programs for individuals, and we're getting involved in that as a partner. So a lot of our referrals come in from units within the county, social service programs. We work a lot with adjudicated youth through the Children's Home of Wyoming Conference, and they're supervised independent living programs for young people that had these problems in the past. So many different partnerships, and that's a key to this grant too. And again, that's a way too that we can expand continually by more partnerships within the community. And I'd like to say to you, that's why we appreciate this, because we're fairly new. We've only been in operation since April. Right. So to get our word out there, let folks know our mission, and to expand it with the referral system, with the partnership. So it's been a blessing, really.
The other thing that's helped too is we have a Facebook page.
Correct.
Yeah, social media.
And social media. And so we've had a number of young people who've looked at the Facebook page and said, "Hey, I'm in that age group.
Great point.
What can you do for me?"
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And then sometimes we get folks that don't meet our criteria. We work for Broome and Tioga Workforce. So we're also able to say, hey, you don't meet our age, or you're not adjudicated, but they might have social issues, social economic issues they need work. So we can also refer to those organizations. So we've developed partnership with Cornell, the workforce, and we can parlay that out too. So it's very unique within the community. Again, it was very attractive from that point for me.
Yeah, that's exciting that you don't have such a narrow focus.
Correct.
that they can embrace the diversity that comes our way and such things. Yeah, friends, I am absolutely thrilled to have Andrew Morrison and Paul Weckel from the Pathstone Corporation sharing about the young adult re-entry partnership that they have through Broome County, sunny Broome. Partnerships. I'm intrigued by that. Can you go a little deeper? You said that a lot of the referrals come through law enforcement or those areas and such things, but how else can partnerships, and what kind of partnerships would aid your work?
I appreciate you asking that question, because we have folks that on a regular basis that call up that are on the verge of homelessness, or they are homeless. So we partner with organizations, Section 8 organizations within the county. We partner with Broome Opportunities, with housing. We can lead people to different entities within the county that can help them get their needs met. I was speaking to you too about the fact that we also see a lot of food insecurity. Mm-hmm. So many times we're receiving calls about, I'm short this week, They're making decisions about paying rent or what they're going to eat, right? We all know this is a factor in our society now. So we're able to get them to a path where that need can be met. So again, the attraction to me was it's all based on that. We have a responsibility in what we want to do for people that are 18 to 24 year old is put them in a path. But I think that the attraction in human service now, and especially within this county, is it's going to take more than just one entity, right? So again, I feel like that's the drive, that we all need to do and establish. We're not a single entity, and we realize that, and we have to reach out. So.
Yeah, that becomes a reality real quick.
It really is. It's because it's based on need a lot of times. Somebody needs a toaster, get them a toaster. Sometimes that simplicity is there, but it's overwhelming for the people that we talk with that are going through that at the time, especially with families, right?
Yeah, yeah. And one of the other key areas that we've thought about in terms of partnering is we recognize that there are a number of churches in the community who have food pantries, who have clothing closets and that sort of thing. And sometimes the young people who come to us, they have clothes that they wear, but they may not be clothes that are suitable for the employment environment.
Right.
So where some of the churches can help, who have, clothes closets, is maybe helping some of these young people with the apparel they'll need to allow them to dress successfully for work.
Yeah.
So that's an area.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
an area.
There's so many layers to it, you know? Yeah.
Correct.
And so we, and you'll appreciate this, to whom much is given, much is required.
Right.
Absolutely, absolutely. Because I know as a pastor, it's difficult as needs come your way to know where they should go. That's always been a very difficult issue for pastors. They need this. Well, where do I send them, or what are the options available for them, to kind of weed through that? And it sounds like that's what you've been doing also, and been successful in connecting people to whatever their needs might be. And that's my hat's off to you in doing that, because that can be.
And the other thing is, we'll go to you, and I think that's a huge part now too. And through the years in my work, sometimes that wasn't always available. You come to us, you sit in an office. We're not about that. If you have need where you are, we're going to come to you.
Okay.
Today, again, I'm going out and talk to a young man out in Windsor, New York. We have young people that you're going to see today that are inner city. So I just want to point out to what I'm seeing, and Andrew and I talk about, is kind of ironic because of both of our backgrounds. I'm equally seeing kids coming out of very rural Broome County with a lot of need.
Yeah.
As much need as we're seeing coming out of the inner city. There doesn't seem to be that gap anymore. So I just kind of want to point that out to folks too. There's a need across the county.
And one of the things that impressed me, and again, I've only been in the area for 10 years, but in Broome County, one of the things that has always impressed me since day one is the number of agencies and people willing to fill those needs. Unlike other areas in which I've served and such, whether it be the county, Broome County Council of Churches or other organizations that are in place. What I have found the difficulty in doing is trying to recognize where they are, what they do, and how you actually connect the people. And I'm sure that's part of your story also.
Very much so, and again, that comes into place with the partnerships, that what we find with people and their needs, and then developing those partnerships and getting them to the door, whether we drive them there, or there's also transportation needs that I want to speak about. We have organizations within the county that'll get people to work. And we use those organizations, and then we have, we work with the Mental Health Association. We have folks that are, struggling with mental health. So again, that partnership blossoms, and I think that, again, the attractiveness is, I believe that's the wave of the future. It's going to take more than person. It's going to take community, right? And you're right, Broome County is a very giving community.
Yes. It is. They often said it takes a village.
It does, absolutely.
And it does take a village, because, when I think back on just some things that we've done in my family, we did foster care from 95 to 2013. During that span of time, we had 15 kids go through the house. It wasn't that we needed anything, it's that we were blessed enough to be able to give something to young people who we saw may have been in need. And it was funny how people would say to us on occasion, "Oh, those kids are blessed to have you in their lives." And I said, no, we're blessed to have them, because they have allowed us to stay grounded and focused on the things that are truly important in life.
Yes. Well said. Friends, our guests today are both Andrew Morrison and Paul Weckel from the Pathstone Corporation, and we're discussing the Young Adult Reentry Partnership and one of the partnerships that they have through SUNY Broome. One of the things, as I was reading through some of this stuff, and we talked about this before we started the show, that really caught my eye was that someone's identified, they get connected to you, but it's not a handshake and send them on their way.
No.
You do this, but there's some behavioral training, there's some counseling along the way. Can you speak about that? That you're kind of with them for a long period of time.
We do what was referred to as a PX2 training, and it's cognitive behavioral training, but it's geared toward, I'm okay today. I got $30 in my pocket. I might be 18 to 24 years old, so I'm good for today. Tomorrow I got no money. So we try to balance the thought of, we want you to start thinking about careers. It segues into the next phase. We have those opportunities for you.
Yeah.
So in my thought, again, attractive coming to the corporation, they're not only, as you said, come on in, we'll fill out the referral, here's your opportunity, take care.
Yes.
No, we're going to deal with the whole person, right? And again, speaking of the partnerships, what you need, we're going to try to help you with that, right? But the bottom line is we also want to change a mindset of, here's the benefits of staying with some of the companies, right? And we're very fortunate right now that there's companies coming into the area that are very willing to work with us along the lines of manufacturing, along the lines of distribution, along the lines of we have skilled labor positions that, and again, they're all identified by the federal government as programs that are going to last. So again, with the cognitive behavioral therapy, we can speak to them as long-time careers.
Yes.
The benefits, the retirement.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I believe that's a very good virtue of this
That's
company.
awesome. Yeah.
And then before we send them out the door, we do a job readiness training with them. And we sort of work with them, talk about some of the skills they'll need, some of the things they need to pay attention to. Pay attention to small details, make sure that you're on time for work. And then we have this one thing that we share with the young people, said, do you have the will and the skill to pay your bills and enjoy some of life's thrills? And we really mean that, because we're trying to get them to look at their whole self.
Yeah.
It's not just working to pay the bills. Can you create a little joy in your life through your efforts?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, you're painting this tapestry, this picture that difficult situations call for complex solutions at times, because it's the whole person. It's the whole dimension of a person. It's not just putting a coin in their pocket. If this isn't right and this isn't right, then and I commend you for that.
Thank you.
That is awesome.
I'd like to piggyback off something Andrew said too. I think, in the field right now, the difference sometimes between someone like Andrew and some people that I've worked with in the past, your ability to go where people are is key too, without judgment, right?
Yes, yes.
And then thus, I watched him yesterday with a young man who's struggling, but the relationship he's forming, because he's real, he'll go to where you are. I see that as inspiring to other people too, because many a times you start talking to an individual and it's like what you said, here's where you can go, take care, but I'll never come into your apartment. And again, I think that's where we're making a lot of headway.
Yes, relationships. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to judge you where you're coming from.
Right. Let me ask you this.
Sure.
What's your biggest frustration in doing this? That wasn't on the paper.
No, that's a great question.
Yeah.
I'm sure you have many. I know at my level sometimes, and I discuss with him, because he's not only, we're not only team members, he's my friend.
Yeah.
He's been for some time. And I know his background too. And, sometimes he'll have the ability to say, it's not within your control. We work with the federal government, and there's audits and there's things that we have to do that sometimes are very frustrating, or we're working with entities within the county that we might not always agree with, but we want to try to play nice in the sandbox, and we want to get along with people. So sometimes the mindset of some folks about, we've been doing this forever, again, with humor, sometimes it makes me step back and we're here because I don't think it was working. In some approaches, right? Not to belittle anybody, but I think sometimes that's my frustration, that as you said, I think that you were hinting on, you got to be a little creative sometimes in dealing, because I'm not dealing with a cog. I'm not working in the factory. I'm working with an individual who's complex,
absolutely,
right?
Absolutely.
So where do we need to help you with, and let them establish that, not us. I think that's been key, because we don't have a huge referral packet. We tell people up front, we're not going to make you sign 45 pieces of paper.
Right.
So again, it changes.
And I guess the thing that's frustrating for me is creating a different kind of DNA.
Yeah, that's a good point.
And so when I talk to these young people about DNA, I'm saying, okay, I need you to think about your determination to get to the destiny. And then I say to them, far as the end one is, you need to be able to both nourish and nurture your dreams and goals. Yeah. And then the A part for me is, attitude, aptitude, action creates altitude. Yeah. And I try to help them understand what those things mean, because again, what I'm finding is some of these kids are out here and they're like a ship in the middle of the storm, and there's nobody at the rudder.
Right.
Nobody has taught them how to till the sail.
Yeah.
And so, and that's one of the things for me in terms of what is their sort of DNA in this scope and of work.
It's the whole person.
Yeah.
It's the whole person. We have about 2 minutes left or so, maybe a little bit more than that, and such things. And I always try to give my guests who are doing the work in the field and that have the passion, and I can see that in your hearts and in your spirits and in your eyes today. Can you give us a last nugget of anything that you would like to about this work, or anything, a plea, or I'm going to give you the floor for the next minute or so.
I just really want people to know and understand that I get it sometimes when folks say, off the cuff, another one of those programs. It's different in the aspect of everything that we're mentioning, that we're trying to put someone down a path. We're not giving them a free pass. People talk about, oh, that's a second and third chance. No, it's a path because they've never had the chance. Yeah. When we talk to individuals, that's what we're quickly realizing, that they lack a mentor, they lack relationship building. And when you get to know an individual and you start understanding what their desires are, it's easy to put them on a path with the resources that we have.
Yes.
And again, SUNY Broome has been very dedicated to this, and it's been a blessing for us because they help us immensely, and then come to us to talk about maybe future endeavors that they would like to get involved in. It's beautiful. It really is.
Can you give me a 30-second nugget?
Yes. Be a mentor.
Yeah.
Be a mentor. We have an awful lot of young people out here who need a touch. We talk about being salt and light. So let's illuminate someone's life, and then let's allow ourselves to be the savor the flavor of the ability to lift people.
Awesome. It is my hope that those that are watching and listening to this program will reach out, and if this is where they find themselves, and to know that there are resources. And I just want to thank you both, Andrew Morrison and Paul Weckel from the Pathstone Corporation, and the wonderful work that you're doing with the Young Adult Reentry Partnership. And we're blessed to have you in this area. So thank you.
Thank you so much.
Brothers and sisters, have a wonderful day, and God bless.